undefeated district champs, and our band director Duncan Prey was named Band Director of the Year. Kerry Swy will schedule your spend a day at delasoundnola.com or call us at 504-895-5717.
Backwater flooding issues continues to be a problem in some spots. Portions of St. James, St. John the Baptist, as well as Livingston parishes will be under the chance of more scattered storms coming up tomorrow, but the rain chance will trail off tonight a little bit, mostly down to 20% for an isolated storm. In the morning, a muggy, humid start again, 70s to near 80, and another hot afternoon coming to you otherwise, peppered with scattered thunderstorms and showers. 40% chance in the afternoon, as hot as 90-ish.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at GoRedForWomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Ralph Sanji, WGSO.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last president of the United States of America.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
That's about all one can do. Anything you just say. The opposite is probably true. Every day, their grip is getting stronger. We must not prune the tree of evil any longer. Every day, the tyrant's getting closer. Will you sit back and watch, or do what you're supposed to?
What can I get with 2.3 trillion? When does a citizen become a civilian? When did the heroes morph into the villains?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another action-packed episode of Battle of New Orleans Radio. I'm Nathan Lawrence, and along with my good buddy and co-host tonight, Mr. David Avity. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be back on the air with you. And how are you?
Man, I'm doing fine. It's hot out there. You know, want to give some prayer out to the people who have flooded all across southern Louisiana and who have, lost belongings, because I know it's hard to replace, but, at least you still have your life and your family. So I want to, offer a prayer out to everybody that's suffering right now.
Absolutely. We were praying before the show about them.
Yeah,
and,
right.
I want to thank you for that, because, when we're not feeling tragedy, we often, we overlook it. We don't think about other people. I'm glad you mentioned it, because it's terrible. I try not to watch local news that much, but when I did this weekend and saw the floodwaters there, I was just taken back. I really couldn't believe the devastation that's going on in Baton Rouge right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Around some of the outer lying areas, they had houses that got flooded up to the roof.
And what did they get? 12 inches of rain in like a day or more?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but the mayor of Walker, he said that this was a man-made disaster due to some type of. I just kind of thumbed through the article. Did you see it, David?
Well, no, I saw something that said a levee had broken.
Yeah.
Now, I like I said, I haven't been keeping up with local news. I've been on Drudge.
Right.
I've been looking at international stuff. I watched Trump last night. I got him on YouTube. I don't know if y'all got to check that out. Trump live. Great speech last night after what has gone on in Wisconsin.
Right.
So he's trying to appeal to Black America, and I think that it was a really good speech talking about urban environment and what's going on right now. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Idle hands make what is it? What's the saying?
Idle hands makes it a devil's workshop.
It ain't good.
Something
whatever
like
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. We need more jobs. All of our jobs have been shipped offshore.
Shipped off offshore, or they're it's part of the automation. I'm thinking about back at our first show, Nathan. And we were talking about automation and
you were talking
mechanics.
about the robot, the hamburger flipper.
Hamburger flipper, and it just doesn't go back to the hamburger flipper. I mean, think about all types of machines, and I mean, I've taken a break from the radio, and I've been doing my own business, and I see, the importance of labor and what people are doing,
right?
And how if automation can take away from somebody making gainful employment, and then you add in the whole immigration thing.
Right.
I mean, Americans aren't really going to be suitable for much of anything but sitting on the couch and collecting a check from the government. But I'm just wondering when the government's going to stop writing that check, or what are they? What's the rations going to come down to? Or,
Yeah, we have definitely.
Venezuela type issue. I don't know what's happening, man. I mean, what I do see firsthand is that Americans don't know really how to. A large percentage don't know how to use their hands. Don't know.
No, we can't. We can't even change a tire. We can't change a battery. We no longer know how to roof. We no longer know how to fix a toilet. We can't do anything.
And millennials. I hired one a couple weeks ago, a month ago, whatever. He's been working with me. I think he's a good kid, but he can't push a shovel into the dirt.
No doubt. I mean, it's just, look, NASA they used the millennials. They were saying that, look, the older astronauts, they could bring a space shuttle back on, with some tape, with some duct tape and some caulk or something, but he said the new, people coming out of MIT, he said they're real great with computers, but they don't know anything, they, as far as working with their hands and even having, common sense and engineering and, mechanical skills. They don't have it.
Well, let me tell you, I feel dumb because,
I
mean, I don't know much of anything. I mean, I went to college, so I really don't know a whole lot. I mean, I can draw a plan and do some things, but and I use my college education in my career. Right. But as far as a lot of people my age, I'm 35, they have college degrees. They don't know how to do much, and if they do, they might have a business degree, but they don't have a job in business, or they might be unemployed. Or
David, a college degree means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. If people would spend their time in 4 years of high school building a business, by the time you were 14 to 18, you would be way more successful than if you went out and got $250,000 worth of student loans. I
wish I had stopped. I wish I had stopped working for somebody else when I was younger. After Katrina I had done it, I wish I had kept up with it.
Right.
Instead of moving, I got displaced. I got good experience. I came back here. Blah blah.
You look
blah.
like a Catrician.
I am a Catrician.
Little refugee over there. No, I hear you. I went to Houston.
All Catricians, right?
Yeah, right. No doubt. I mean, we're about to go to break here in a minute, but I want to get into. We played that Payday Monsanto's. I played that little clip where he says 2.3 trillion. Most people don't have a clue what that means. He's talking about the $2.3 trillion that came up missing from the Pentagon's books the day before 9/11, and then they just conveniently moved 180 budget analysts and bookkeepers to the exact place where the Pentagon got hit. Well, I'm saying that because this past week there was a Reuters report that showed the Pentagon. There's some more money missing. Just cut to the chase. $6.5 trillion is missing.
You're kidding me.
$6.5 trillion missing last year off the books. That's a total of almost $11 trillion since 2001.
All right, so the first thing that you had mentioned about the 2.3,
and we're saying trillion, not billion, not million, trillion.
Yeah.
$11 trillion has vanished.
All right, so when you said the 2.3 trillion, I thought that was just that's a hell of a coincidence, right? I mean, you got 2.3 trillion missing.
Then the Pentagon gets hit.
So yeah, you're about to get, your boss is about to come down on you. Like, hey, Anthony, you messed up. Where's the 2.3 trillion?
No, they still.
You say, boom, the planes hit, and then conveniently you put all the papers in that building, in that office where the plane hits.
Well, then right after that, 2 years later, another $2 trillion come up missing.
Nathan, that's just bad bookkeeping.
Yeah, and guess what? It was, you know who the comptroller was at that time?
Who?
Mr. Dov Zakheim. He was the comptroller over the Pentagon.
Same guy?
A dual citizen, that's all I'll say, was over the Pentagon's books.
So wait, he wasn't even an American citizen?
You know where he's from, David?
No, I don't know. Well, tell me, where's he from? Zakheim.
He's a dual Israeli citizen running our Pentagon's books.
They got a few of those running around the government. They should make a law saying no dual citizenship.
I don't care where you're from. You could be a dual citizen of Argentina, Mexico. I don't care. You need to be an American. If not, you have a foreign allegiance.
Or at least don't give them the checkbook.
2.3 trillion.
Enjoy fresh fruit grown in your yard. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com delivers and installs fruit trees and fruiting vines to your home or condo. Proudly serving Kenner, Metairie, and New Orleans. Apples, apricots, blackberries, citrus, figs, grapes, peaches, pears, persimmons, plums, and raspberries. All the trees and fruiting vines are grown right here in South Louisiana. Check out the Fruit Tree Guide for more information and visit JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com today. It's a great time to plant. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com.
Whether you're in the real estate market to buy, sell, lease, or looking for someone just to manage your properties, look no further than Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties. She has 34 years experience and is an expert of all of the latest programs available to homeowners. She has been my trusted realtor for years now. So please call Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties at 504-858-9293. That's 504-858-9293. Renovations Your Way. They renovate to fit your needs with complete customer service from start to finish that goes way beyond the job. With over 20 years experience, and they are fully insured, and they support the Battle of New Orleans Radio to unite the metro area in the fight for liberty.
Visit us on the web at renovationsyourway.com or call me, Daniel, at 985-402-5916. That's 985-402-5916. renovationsyourway.com. Mention you heard about us on Battle of New Orleans Radio and receive a 10% discount.
As the corporate media dies, MetroNow.com and TheDailyResistance.com continue to give you a decentralized and independent take on the latest current events as well as historical reference to help you wade through the propaganda of the prostitute media. Our mission is to inform the people of New Orleans about the issues of freedom, health, world events, and much more so that we as a community can thrive in the 21st century. Only with an informed public will we truly be free and independent. So take a look at MetroNow.com or TheDailyResistance.com as your independent news source.
Does your house have a clogged up toilet, faulty electrical wires, or AC or heater just isn't blowing properly? Well, call Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. Also specializes in new construction and covers the whole New Orleans metro area. So please, call our friend Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. That's 985-781-0418.
Ooh-wee. Hey, David, that smell good. What you eating on?
Man, I'm eating on some shrimp I got from J&N Big Easy Seafood.
Man, I had to get me some of that.
Yeah, bro, they specialize in the delivery, catering of 20 pounds or more boiled or live shrimp, crawfish, catfish, crabs, frog legs, and much more.
And how do I get in touch with J&N's Big Easy Seafood?
Just call them up. Call 985-640-8822. That's 985-640-8822.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. You're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio right here on the home of the First Amendment in New Orleans. That's 990 AM WGSO. Man, we're back, and it feels good, David, to be back on the air. You know, we have a special guest we're going to bring on in a second. But, you know, when we closed in that break, David, we were discussing that Reuters report of the $6.5 trillion that has vanished from the Pentagon's books. You know, this ties into the other $2.3 trillion and the other $2 trillion that came up missing in 2004. So 6.5 plus about 4.1, 4.3. That's pretty close to $11 trillion that has come up missing. And this just proves that the Pentagon has a big, secret budget, because they tell us it's $700 billion a year. But, that is just total horse manure. If they got $6.5 trillion, that just vanishes like it's a dime, a nickel, and a quarter.
Absolutely. I mean, look, if I haven't really I keep up with the news every day. I haven't heard about this. So not only is this a secret budget, but it also makes reminiscent of the propaganda that was legalized with the NDAA.
The whole media tells us nothing. You have to go to overseas media to get anything. Our media is corporate controlled, it's CIA controlled, it's Pentagon controlled, it's Department of Defense, the whole 9 yards, man.
Yeah.
They sold out in 51 with Operation Mockingbird. What do you think has changed since then, David?
I don't know. I wonder what Dr. Tim Anderson's viewpoint is on this. And could you introduce him? I know he's written a book and
we talk a lot on this show about global geopolitics because this affects us. And we've discussed ad nauseum the Middle East and how disgusting our policies have been in the Middle East. We've created every end of radical Islam in the Middle East. And I'm just going to run down 1927. The British intelligence created, the Muslim Brotherhood. You look at Israeli intelligence created Hamas in 1974. These are all of their enemies they created. So I'm sick of it. We've had this policy. Judicial Watch sued and got, the FOIA, they got the FOIA request, and it showed all of the information that we were funding all of the radical, jihadis,
Hey, maybe that's where that money went, right?
Yeah, that's 6.5 trillion. But look, Dr. Tim Anderson has written a great book. I've got it on order. I haven't received it yet. Damn you, Amazon. But anyway, look, it's called The Dirty War on Syria, Washington, Regime Change, and Resistance. So, look, I'm very excited to be able to talk to Professor Anderson because he is coming all the way, from Sydney, Australia. So it's a long ways from New Orleans. I believe 15 hours ahead of us. So, Dr. Anderson, welcome to the program. Welcome to Battle of New Orleans Radio. We surely appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks very much. I think from what you say, I think it must be evening or late afternoon there. It's morning here.
Yes, sir. It's 7:21, 7:22 p.m. Central Standard Time.
What time you have over there, Doctor?
It's just gone 10 a.m. in the morning here.
Oh, not too bad. I'm glad we didn't wake you up at 5 in the morning.
No, it's not too bad.
All right, good deal.
Yeah, I don't know, Doctor, if you heard, what I was saying about the 6.5 trillion that come out of, that report from Reuters that shows, there's some mishaps here from the Pentagon. I mean, what's your take on that? I'd like to get your take on that because I believe it's very serious, before you discuss your book.
Yeah, it is very serious. I can't say I have any special knowledge about that. I know that there was talk about that from your former Defense Minister Cheney some years ago. One large amount that went missing back in 2001, but I don't have any special knowledge about those secret funds. Of course, there's such a lot that's secret these days. I was looking at a video where a congressman was interviewing one US bureaucrat, and he said, we can't show these things to Congress, we can't even show it to Congress people, some of the information that they have there. So certainly there's a big secret state going on there in the US, and I'm sure that US citizens are very concerned about that. I've really focused on how people are impacted in other cultures by our, I mean the Australian as well as the US operations in other parts of the world, in particular the Middle East. So I'm paying a bit less attention to the internal problems.
Can you speak to the relationship between the United States and Australia and part of the New World Order and their position in the Asia Pacific? How does that all work?
Okay, well, in a nutshell, you were just talking about the US and the Muslim Brotherhood and the British and so on. Of course, the British really got to learn to use sectarian extremism after the fall of the Ottoman Empire 100 years ago, when they got that relationship with the Al Saud family, which now has a country called after it. And of course, when the US became the big power in the world after the Second World War, the British handed Al Saud across to President Eisenhower, really in the 50s, so that was where the British really passed on the baton to Washington in respect of extremist sectarians in the Middle East. In terms of Australia, we were a colony of Britain, like the US was, I guess, but we didn't fight for our independence. We remained tied to Britain until the 40s, when the Japanese took over Singapore, and then we switched our big brother relationship to Washington in 1942. So ever since then, there's been relationships, close sort of dependent relationships that our capital in Canberra has had with Washington, and still with some influence from Britain and the Europeans, but basically in all strategic matters outside our region, the Australian governments, whatever party, are pretty much in lockstep with what Washington's doing. The only exceptions really are some things in the region here, in the Pacific Islands, some of the things going on in our region. But anything in the Middle East, Australia is really one of those little dependent partners that latches onto what Washington happens to be doing in the Middle East.
So you're kind of a stooge for the Australia is kind of a stooge for the United States, or
pretty much like Canada, similar sort of role to Canada in a way.
Yeah, gotcha.
I gotcha. Dr. Anderson, David and I, we have talked, just at ends on the radio about, Syria and about how the Syrians have been treated. 2012, they started really pushing this whole narrative really hard that, we got to get Assad, and then, they had this whole phony deal with the chemical weapons, and later, other nations reported that they really couldn't confirm that or that was false. I mean, it sounded pretty, respectively similar to, Iraq. It was kind of the similar narrative. So, I mean, ever since then, we've really took a dump on Syria and really helped slaughter hundreds of thousands of people because of what we're doing over there by supporting ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra and all these other groups, taking down the Assad regime, which was a pretty good regime overall, considering in the Middle East, compared to our
what's going on now.
Yeah, and compared to our great ally in Saudi Arabia. So, please, Dr. Anderson, please go into Syria and what's really going on there.
Yeah, well, you're right. Syria, in regional terms, is really the most pluralistic, tolerant society in the whole region. Basically, it's based on what they call secularism. I think we probably more call pluralism. They're not anti-religion, but they have got this big, very diverse community, lots and lots of minorities, as well as ordinary mainstream Muslims. But they're not fanatical. They're at that crossroads between Europe and the Middle East, and they, have that mixture of different cultures that they like. They really like it. I've been to Syria 4 times now, and you notice one of the things in the Syrian character is they love the fact that there's the church bells are going off when the call to prayer is going off, and there's that whole mixture of things, The women have a much higher status than any of the other Arab countries around them, basically. They can choose whether or not to wear the hijab.
Hey, Dr. Anderson, hold that thought. We're coming to a break. Yeah, that I believe that's why, another reason we must take them down. They're not radical enough. We must take down all these non-violent regimes and replace them with radicals. Ladies and gentlemen, you listen to Battle of New Orleans Radio. We have Dr. Tim Anderson from Sydney, Australia on. We'll be right back.
Enjoy fresh fruit grown in your yard. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com delivers and installs fruit trees and fruiting vines to your home or condo. Proudly serving Kenner, Metairie, and New Orleans. Apples, apricots, blackberries, citrus, figs, grapes, peaches, pears, persimmons, plums, and raspberries. All the trees and fruiting vines are grown right here in South Louisiana. Check out the Fruit Tree Guide for more information and visit JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com today. It's a great time to plant. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com. As the corporate media dies, MetriNail.com and TheDailyResistance.com continue to give you a decentralized and independent take on the latest current events as well as historical reference to help you wade through the propaganda of the prostitute media. Our mission is to inform the people of New Orleans about the issues of freedom, health, world events, and much more so that we as a community can thrive in the 21st century. Only with an informed public will we truly be free and independent. So take a look at MetroNow.com or TheDailyResistance.com as your independent news source.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-95-STEEL. This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-95-STEEL.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Halen Doty. According to the State Fire Marshal's Office, emergency workers discovered a man's body in a flooded Denham Springs subdivision this afternoon, which brings the flooding death toll to 12. The identity of the victim has not yet been confirmed, but investigators say the man appears to be in his 50s. As the floodwaters rose, many people were fleeing to shelter. Celtic Media Studios in Baton Rouge opened their doors to thousands of people who were forced out of their homes after the devastating storm. Director of Studio Operations, Patrick Mulhern, says the lull in the film industry actually turned out to be a blessing.
Things happen for a reason sometimes. As much as I've probably dog-cussed legislators and others for messing up the film industry here, this couldn't have worked out better, because having empty sound stages is the reason why we were able to do this.
Mulhern says Saturday night the population of Celtic was 0, and Sunday afternoon the population was about 4,000 people. He says there's been talk about Baton Rouge being divided, but he's never seen a more united community than over the weekend. Louisiana Radio Network.
What does it take for you to bike safely and be a role model? It's simple. Wear a helmet. Use hand signals and horn when needed. Go with the traffic flow and obey traffic laws. Be alert and be seen at all times, whether daytime or nighttime. Think bike safety and be a role model. That's how you can help Louisiana reach 0 deaths on all roads.
Oh, Barbara, I want you to meet Edward.
Hi, nice to meet. Okay, why are you wearing oven mitts?
Well, I've been playing the Heatwave scratch-off from the lottery.
And you need oven mitts for that?
I sure do, Eddie. Can I call you Eddie?
No, actually.
Okay, you see, Eddie, Heatwave's the hottest thing going, Edster.
Edward.
And with Heatwave, you could win up to $100,000.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
No, pretty hot.
Play Heatwave from the lottery. Win up to $100,000. Must be at least 21 to purchase. Oven mitts not in.
This is Jeff Crouere with my commentary of the day. Well, the media's in a tizzy over Donald Trump's taxes, saying he's got to release them, even though he's still being audited. But what about Hillary's medical records? We know she had a serious fall. We know she had a blood clot. We've seen video of her stumbling, having a hard time getting upstairs, freezing at campaign events, looking like she could be dealing with seizures. She's got a doctor with her on the campaign trail. She just stumbled after leaving the podium the other day and was assisted by Joe Biden. So it's clear that there are legitimate questions that need to be answered about her health. She's also not campaigning on the weekends, doing very few events compared to Donald Trump. Is that a health issue? Inquiring minds want to know. The media has done a horrible job pursuing this issue. Are they part of a cover-up? That question is a legitimate one, and it's very legitimate for Americans to demand the medical records of Hillary Clinton now. More info on this and the other hot topics of the day, check out ringsidepolitics.com.
Hello, this is David Jeremiah. Join me each weekday morning at 5:30 or 6:30 for Turning Point here on Talk Radio 990 AM.
Bon appetit, I'm Cynthia Clark, your food reporter and host of The Cuisine Report. The Cuisine Report is the new daily voice on WGSO, Monday to Friday from 1 to 3.
Join me Fridays at 5 for the Real Estate Rundown with Rachel Wolf. We'll bring in the experts to tell you what you need to know in the ever-changing real estate market. Fridays at 5 on WGSO 990 AM.
Our daily life is filled with many decisions. Some have effects on our lives for years to come. That decision-making process is often full of opinions, stressful, and leaves us confused and insecure, not knowing who or what to believe. This is your neighbor, advisor, and sounding board, Ralph Leopold. Please join me for Your Money, Your Life.
Tuesdays at 5.
Here on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com. And we can talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. You're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio right here on 990 AM WGSO in the heart of the Crescent City. We have Dr. Tim Anderson on Skype with us discussing Syria and our roles and our involvement in the Middle East. Dr. Anderson, please continue where you left off.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, look, the targeting of Syria is really nothing to do with the nature of Syrian democracy or anything else about Syria, really. It was Syria's turn. You know, we've really had one war going on for the last 15 years. It's not several wars. It wasn't just the war in Afghanistan,
right.
The war in Iraq, the war on Libya, the war on Syria, the one that almost happened with Iran. And, you know, there is a strong link between all of those. We know that there was a plan back in 2001. It was announced. Yeah, it was announced later in 2005, 2006 to create a new Middle East, to get rid of those areas in the Middle East which did not have US bases, which did not have a strong link into the military strategy of the big powers in that region. And who was that? That was Iran, that was Syria, that was Libya, that was a part of Lebanon that resists Israel. So really after Libya, you know, Syria was meant to be Libya take two, but it wasn't that easy, was it? The resistance was very strong. The Syrians were behind their army. They're still behind their army, and the Syrians have got strong friends. And that's what Washington faces today, that now the most recent thing is that the Russians are using Iranian air bases to bomb all of the terrorist groups in Syria, not just the ones they call extremists, the ones they call moderates. Really, they're effectively the same thing. But China's announced that it's bought into this too, you know, so there's another fly in the ointment for the big plan.
Wait, I have to just step back for 1 second because I had a question in mind, and then you mentioned Iran because I had forgotten about Iran. But Russia and Iran are obviously allied with Syria, but now you're saying that is China?
China was providing aid, like humanitarian aid to Syria for a while, but holding back from the military side of things. And just in the last few days, they've said that they are entering into military cooperation, training, some other engagement with Syria. So politically, it's very important that China's made that move officially just in the last few days.
You know, it's very disheartening, Dr. Anderson, to watch all this as an American, because I'm going to be honest with you, most Americans don't support any of this. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, and people are going to say I'm an American. Hey, I love my nation. I want to be free. I love liberty. I want freedom. I want us to all have, you know, these unalienable rights. But I find myself rooting for Russia and Syria and China because it seems like they're fighting the New World Order.
They're fighting the radical Islamists that we've been caught funding.
Yeah, we funded and created. I mean, it's crazy. What planet am I living in, Doctor?
I was reminded of the that old saying, you must have heard it. I thought it was Shakespeare. It's actually Walter Scott who said, "Oh, what a tangled weave when first we practice to deceive." You know,
yeah.
The Russians and the Iranians and the Chinese and the Iraqis, let's remember, are really say they're doing the same thing as the US in the region. Everyone says they're on the same page. Of course, they're not on the same page, but they say it. And the problem is that Washington has painted itself into a corner by saying they're against these extremists when the evidence has been very, very strong. And I detailed in my book, and you can get it at Global Research, by the way. I don't know if it's on Amazon.
Yeah, it is. I should have ordered it. I should have ordered it from Global Research.
Right. That the Washington in the last few years has been funding and arming every single anti-government group in Syria and Iraq to try and divide those countries and to weaken them, basically. And you've had Vice President Biden admitting this 2 years ago. You've had the head of the armed forces, General Martin Dempsey, admitting it. The head of the Congressional Committee, I believe, on the armed forces, Lindsey Graham, admitting it. But we've still got this narrative in the corporate media that you started off talking about of the moderate rebels this, the moderate rebels that. It's a fig leaf, it's a fig leaf that's over, the embarrassment of Washington at the moment. And that's, I think, where a lot of frustration and confusion comes in our Western cultures.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Our own co-host and reporter, Caleb Hitt, for the dailyresistance.com, interviewed Congressman Bill Johnson from Ohio, Doctor. And Congressman Johnson said, "Oh, look, I was in Israel in the Golan Heights, which really belongs to Syria. I was in Israel in the Golan Heights, and I was watching, the moderate Syrian rebels. Some of them were Al Qaeda. They knew it was Al Qaeda was crossing over into Israel, and the Israelis are so great. They were bandaging them up and sending them back across. What our own politicians admit." Things like this. I mean, but
Hey,
go ahead, David.
I interviewed John McCain. He said he knew these people.
Oh,
It's
he
like
hung
he went to high school with these Syrian rebels. He could vouch for them. So I asked him, how do you vet these folks? Oh, don't worry about it. He knew them. He knew them.
They must be pretty old rebels if they went to school with John McCain.
Yeah, they crutching around the desert over there, apparently.
Well, he's such a traitor.
So, but the thing is that John McCain is still in office.
He's a war criminal. I mean, they committed war crimes.
So, but now we've got this populist here, Donald Trump, who came out against John McCain, the only one who really has the bravado, the guts, or whatever to say, this guy, there's something wrong with him, and he's really pointed out how terrible Lindsey Graham and John McCain and all these congressmen are who are these, practicing this Machiavellian politics. Dr. Tim, what do you think of the elections going on, and how big of a role is this playing in the geopolitical spectrum, Russia and Syria and Donald Trump? I mean, it sounds like we have hope. We have somebody's actually saying things that are, true. So that's good. What do you think about all this from Australia?
Well, I'm not a North American, so I don't really have a voice in the North American politics. But of course, it does have an impact on the debate, doesn't it? And obviously, there's a very clear distinction between the continuity of these, what I call dirty wars, in Syria and in Iraq and in Libya. It was to, in terms of one candidate that's been supporting those dirty wars and one that says he wants to pull the US out of those dirty wars, So whether that's actually what's going to happen is another story, because I think the Syrian president made the point a month or so ago that, it's election campaign and we don't pay too much attention to what they say in election campaigns. It's what comes out at the other end, because
Great point.
Sometimes they can be much more of
Smart.
the same.
Smart, yeah, absolutely.
It's true that you would say for people outside the US or people being affected by these wars, that they see some greater hope and promise in the fact that one of the candidates is saying, why shouldn't we have a good relationship with Russia? Why shouldn't we support the Middle East leaders that are getting rid of these extremists, So that's refreshing to people outside the US, I've got to say.
Yeah, no doubt. That is a great point. Look, Dr. Tim Anderson, we're about to go to break. Look, when we get back, I would like for you to break down to the listeners why and how these are dirty wars, because they obviously are very dirty, because millions of people have lost their lives from the Western policies.
What does that mean, dirty wars? Let's get to it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen to Battle of New Orleans Radio. Please go support Dr. Tim Anderson. You can find his work, The Dirty War in Syria, at Global Research. Go check it out. That is also a great, great website. You can find a lot of great information there that you will not find on the mainstream, lying, prostitute whore media. We'll be right back.
Enjoy fresh fruit grown in your yard. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com delivers and installs fruit trees and fruiting vines to your home or condo. Proudly serving Kenner, Metairie, and New Orleans. Apples, apricots, blackberries, citrus, figs, grapes, peaches, pears, persimmons, plums, and raspberries. all the trees and fruiting vines are grown right here in South Louisiana. Check out the Fruit Tree Guide for more information and visit JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com today. It's a great time to plant. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com.
Don't pay more for your new hardwood floor. Lumber Liquidators is the style you want for less. This week, get our newest looks from just $179, and it's your last chance to get 20% off all in-stock Dream Home laminate flooring packages and up to 15% off pre-finished hardwood with coupon. Get special stack-out deals at every store with 20% off or more on clearance, and more incredible deals from just 69 cents, plus special financing. Visit LumberLiquidators.com to find a store near you and get the best deals on the floor you want today.
Blue the Dog here for Propane. Making the rounds with my owner, the Propane Man, has allowed me to see a lot. I may just be a simple dog. I didn't attend the elite boarding kennels, and you'll never see me on Barking with the Stars. But I do know that propane is the smart fuel that lets millions of Americans live where they want and how they want. It's clean, reliable, and powers modern appliances from tankless water heaters to high-efficiency furnaces. Learn more at ProudlyPropane.com.
Whether you're in the real estate market to buy, sell, lease, or looking for someone just to manage your properties, look no further than Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties. She has 34 years experience and is an expert of all of the latest programs available to homeowners. She has been my trusted realtor for years now. So please call Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties at 504-858-9293. That's 504-858-9293. Renovations Your Way. They renovate to fit your needs with complete customer service from start to finish that goes way beyond the job. With over 20 years experience, and they are fully insured, and they support the Battle of New Orleans Radio to unite the metro area in the fight for liberty.
Visit us on the web at renovationsyourway.com or call me, Daniel, at 985-402-5916. That's 985-402-5916. renovationsyourway.com. Mention you heard about us on Battle of New Orleans Radio and receive a 10% discount.
Does your house have a clogged up toilet, faulty electrical wires, or AC or heater just isn't blowing properly? Well, call Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. Also specializes in new construction and covers the whole New Orleans metro area. So please, call our friend Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. That's 985-781-0418.
Battle of New Orleans Radio with your hosts Nathan Lawrence, Caleb Hitt, and Goyam on 990 WGSO.
In 1814 we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. You're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio. We have Dr. Tim Anderson, the author of The Dirty War on Syria, Washington, Regime Change, and Resistance. And we don't like resistors. Dr. Anderson, I asked you to, please break down why and how this is a dirty war. So, please go on and please explain to us.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, in Syria, some people ask me why dirty war? Aren't all wars dirty? And I said, well, yeah, but really what I'm taking a leaf out of here is the Latin American experience. You might remember back in the 80s, the Contra War against Nicaragua, for example, which was branded a terrorist war by the International Court of Justice, and which did no good for that little country, of course. So what I mean by dirty war is that they are based on lies. Maybe once again, all wars are based on lies. But in this case, what we've got is a proxy war. We've got proxy armies of extremists, whether it's the Free Syrian Army or al-Nusra, al-Qaeda or ISIS, any of those, al-Zenki, Fatah al-Sham, any of those groups, they've all been financed and armed by North American weapons, money from the close allies, the Saudis, Qatar, Turkey, a NATO member. So the lying pretexts for those wars have had to be carried on by the governments, the Western governments, to support this project, and by the corporate media that reflect those governments' wartime narrative. The wartime narrative is a very tightly controlled one. I found it very surprising that there were so few chinks in the first few years, at least, where you could hear a different version of things. They black banned people, they blacklisted people in the corporate media. So that's why I call it the dirty war. It's based on misinformation. It's using misinformation to fool and confuse people, to pretend that the Syrian president was killing his own civilians. You look at those sorts of incidents closely, you look at the evidence, you'll find they were fabrications in the first place, a series of fabrications. Not to say the Syrian army isn't killing people and doesn't have some collateral damage, but it's an army that's backed up by its people. And the idea that, the extremist groups are being fought by the Western countries, again, ridiculous. So that's what I mean by dirty war. It's using a lot of disinformation to confuse people, to disarm the objection to a war being carried out in their name, in our name, against extremists, when in fact we are backing those extremists against one of the more decent governments in the region.
I want the listening audience to let all of this resonate. I mean, because we hear this, and I don't think we really go look in the mirror and say this out loud. We are funding ISIS. We are funding and steering, and in some points we have, Western backing. There's been Israeli generals been running arms of ISIS, and CIA has been running. I mean, it's just ridiculous. In the same name, then you get, Barack Obama. The peace,
Obama.
Yeah, the peacetime president. He gets up there. Oh, we're fighting ISIS. Man, come on! You are the commander in chief of ISIS.
And he got the Nobel Peace Prize.
I was in Palmyra in April this year. You know, Palmyra that was taken over by ISIS last year. A lot of Syrian soldiers lost their life when that town was taken over. Syria got it back from ISIS this year. March this year. A lot of Syrian soldiers lost their lives getting it back from Palmyra. I was walking around. They'd only been there a few weeks ago. I picked up some shells on the ground. I said to a Syrian soldier, "This one of yours or one of theirs?" And he had a look at it. It was about a 50 mil shell, fairly heavy shell. And it was an American shell,
Oh my gosh.
Virtually all their weapons. There were some Israeli weapons, but virtually all their weapons were American weapons.
Dr. Anderson, I hate to cut you off. I mean, this is hitting me so hard because you have been there. You're talking about how you've gone there after this major, campaign. ISIS and Syrians kicked them out of Palmyra. Tell us, I've seen some video. Americans are not exposed to what is going on in Syria. We live in a total vacuum. And Nathan talks about it all the time, and until we're blue in the face. What does Syria look like? And folks, do you hear what this man is saying? American weapons, 50 cal, it's an American cartridge. I mean, this is a shell from something our military,
our tax dollars, your
tax dollars has given them,
are killing innocent children.
When ISIS left Palmyra, they robbed the hospital that had been recently refitted, and they took the stuff from the hospital in Hummers, right? So they drove the Hummers back to Palmyra, back to Iraq, back to Raqqa and back to Iraq from Palmyra. So all of those sorts of things were being, of course, the US, which had planes supposedly bombing ISIS last year, since late 2014, really, they didn't hit them at all when they were going across the open desert. There's a lot of open desert in eastern Syria, open desert into Palmyra, hundreds of kilometers of open desert, a convoy of Hummers and other sorts of vehicles from eastern Syria and Iraq. They didn't hit them at all on the way. They didn't stop them going to Palmyra. The only time that the US planes were hitting them was when they were affecting their allies, one of the groups of Kurds in the north of Iraq, when they went in there, the Yazidis, you might remember that. Then they bombed them to sort of cattle prod them, to shepherd them out of that area. But when ISIS went into Palmyra, they didn't touch them. And they went in with American weapons.
I want to curse on the radio so bad.
Well, Dr. Anderson is bringing the human element to everybody. We know all of this, but when you hear people that have been there and have really brought the human element, it's sickening. I swear, I want to make it my mission to go to these countries like Syria and Iran, because the lying media tells everybody we can't go, that all these people are our enemies. No, they're not the enemies. The people that control the central banking cartel that make these wars happen, these are our enemies. All wars are bankers' wars, and it is disgusting. Go ahead, Doctor. We didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. You're right. It's a good point. You know your audience, and you know what they are missing out on, and perhaps what they need to hear. I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't want to, talk about U.S. politics, but you've got a lot of problems you have to deal with there, and some of these things compete with that, of course. So anyway, in Syria, you'd be very welcome if you went to Syria. They know that if people come from America, they make an extra effort to get there, and they'll take the time to talk to you. But it's a very cultured country. They're very decent people. As I say, they've got this pluralism of religion. The army, the Syrian army, about which a lot of lies have been written, that's made up of Christians, of Sunni Muslims, of Shia Muslims, of Alawis, of Druze, of all of the Armenians. All the different groups in Syria are in that army. And while they had some defections in the early days, that army stuck together and the people have stuck behind them, So that story isn't getting out very well, I don't think, because all we hear in the Western media is, oh, the Syrian army, the Russian, it flowed onto the Russians, same thing. They're just killing civilians every day. For some reason, they're targeting their own civilians. And for some strange reason, that same media doesn't pay attention to the fact that people in Syria are very strongly behind their army. The most popular entity in Syria today, they say, God bless the army, God bless the army. You hear that everywhere. And all of the families have got martyrs, their family members that have died defending that country, doing exactly what an army should, defend their communities, defend their country. So the whole population of Syria is, you could say, up in arms, because their family members, they're the ones that are dying defending their country from all of these mad fanatics and mercenaries that have been thrown at them from all quarters.
That's patriotism. They're showing patriotism for their land.
Absolutely.
Dr. Anderson, I worked with, I know we only have a couple minutes left before another commercial break, but I've worked with a guy who has a lot of military contacts, a lot of law enforcement contacts here. And he has been saying over the last year that he's going to Syria to go drive a gas truck. He's going to go. So who is he driving? I mean, I didn't ask him about this, and I don't know, what's going on, but it sounds like this plan is, that our military contractors are going to be coming in, taking over some kind of oil line. I mean, is he? What is this? This is the is the end game that we have U.S. military contractors driving oil tankers with radical Islamists to Turkey from Saudi Arabia? How is this? What is your perception of what I just said?
Well, I don't know.
And
exactly.
we might have to get back to this after the break, because I know we're coming up. I hear some music.
Yeah, let's just hold that for the breaks. I know it's gonna be a long answer. Look, please go get this man's book. I have it on order. It hasn't there yet, but I look forward to reading it. I read some of the stuff online. It looks fantastic. Please go buy his book, The Dirty War on Syria, and you will learn about really what's going on. You can go to Global Research and order your copy. Please support Dr. Tim Anderson. Listen to Battle of New Orleans Radio. We'll be right back. Put yourself, audience, what if you was a Syrian? What if you was an Afghani goat herder? Ask yourself that.
Support the people that are speaking up for the ones that don't have a voice.
That's right. We'll be right back.
Makes me cry. It's the truth we must embrace. You may take me, but you'll never break my will. My soul is not for sale.
Bon voyage from the Cuisine Report. When you dine in or take out at Saucy's Barbecue on Magazine Street, please remember to drop your receipt with your name into the bowl at the register for your chance to win one of 5 pair tickets valued at $70 to cruise to beautiful Ship Island on the Gulf Coast. To win, just dine at Saucy's this month for your chance to win tickets to Ship Island excursions on a luxury yacht to the beautiful beach of Ship Island in Gulfport, Mississippi. Tickets courtesy of Ship Island Excursions. What are you doing to stop traffic? When your business is ready to wow the pants off customers, visit Sir Speedy. We produce quality signs, posters, banners, and more that are just a trick for trade shows, promotions, events, and product launches. Whether you're taking it to the street, the floor, or the counter, bigger is always better. For more information or to get a quote, go to SirSpeedyNewOrleans.com.
Greetings, New Orleans. This is James Moises of Moises Wines, thanking you for 6 years of drinking my Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley of Oregon. Seeing how my wine has become a big part of many of your memories and special occasions has surpassed my expectations. From me and the entire Moises Wine family, thank you for all your support. Let's toast with Moises Wines for the holidays and a happy and healthy new year. All the best. Cheers.
Most people shy away from taking their cars to be serviced. Why? That's because they're scared they'll get ripped off, right? Well, not at Automotive Tires and Services on Jefferson Highway. Period. Vance and his team will make sure you leave with a well-serviced vehicle at a reasonable price. No sticker shock. Automotive Tires and Services offers all name brand tires and can take care of any repair or maintenance you need on your vehicle. And they know their customers by name. Call Vance today at 737-4096. Automotive Tires and Service, 737-4096.
Catch the Three Tailgaters Show with Ken Trahan, Ed Daniels, and Rick Gailey Saturday mornings from 10 to noon on WGSO 990 AM, New Orleans.
Main team bringing in a longtime Republican operative to be his new campaign manager.
We want to deny Hillary Clinton the Oval Office.
That's Kellyanne Conway speaking to Fox News. She's been a campaign advisor to Trump, but again, now she'll be campaign manager, and they're bringing in Stephen Bannon to be campaign CEO. He's the co-founder of conservative Breitbart News. Paul Manafort is said to be still with the campaign, but he's expected to have a reduced role. The man who climbed Trump Tower last week, only making it 21 floors, saying he tried to get the nominee's attention, was arraigned today from his bed at a mental hospital, as we hear from Lisa G.
He's being held on $10,000 bond and faces charges of reckless endangerment and criminal trespass.
Today, the Dow gains 21, the NASDAQ picks up 2. This is USA Radio News.
We all want to live long, healthy lives, and we know that smoking is not a part of making that happen. We all know the dangers, but we also know that it's tough to quit smoking and make it stick. And that's where NicoBlock comes in. It comes in a little bottle, and when you put it on the filter of your cigarette, it blocks the inhalation of tar and nicotine. So you got to check this out. Go to nicoblock.tv and find out more. You can also call 877-835-6060. Now, whether this is your first time quitting or your fifth, NicoBlock is your best chance to stop smoking for good. The taste doesn't change, and neither does your satisfaction. But what does change is your dependence on nicotine. And as you increase the number of NicoBlock drops, you'll gradually decrease your tar and nicotine intake. It's that simple. It's gradual. It's effective. Call 877-835-6060. Stop smoking. Make it for good this time. 877-835-6060 or go to nicoblock.tv.
At least 12 people now dead from historic flooding in Louisiana. Another body found today outside Baton Rouge as a team was inspecting a flooded home. Tens of thousands of people have been forced from their homes since the flooding began last weekend. A North Korean diplomat who'd been living in London for 10 years now defecting and under government protection in South Korea. It's believed he's the highest-ranking North Korean official to ever defect. Natalie Powell has more.
Tae Yong-ho and his family had been due to return to Pyongyang. Tae was the deputy ambassador to the UK, whose role was to spread positive messages about North Korea. It's believed he'd come under pressure recently from North Korea's government over concerns of growing criticism of the country's human rights record. A spokesperson in South Korea gave the reason for the defection as a disgust with Kim Jong-un's regime and admiration of South Korea's democratic system. Natalie Powell, London.
This is USA Radio News.
What's at stake at this election? A lot. From the freedom to publicly practice and proclaim your faith to the nomination of Supreme Court justices, matters of critical importance to Christians are looming in the days ahead. That's why we invite you to join us on September 9th through 11th in Washington, D.C. for the Values Voters Summit. Come to learn, be encouraged, and meet others who will stand for the renewal of this great nation. Visit valuesvotersummit.org for more information.
Firefight.
Hi, I'm Rob Clemens with saintsforsinners.com. Tune in at 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings for our radio show on WGSO Radio. We'll be covering the lives of the old age saints with stories of hope, courage, faith, and love, as well as any other topic imaginable. Saints for Sinners. I'm Rob Clemens with saintsforsinners.com. 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings on WGSO.
Backwater flooding issues continues to be a problem in some spots. Portions of St. James, St. John the Baptist, as well as Livingston parishes will be under the chance of more scattered storms coming up tomorrow, but the rain chance will trail off tonight a little bit, mostly down to 20% for an isolated storm. In the morning, a muggy, humid start again, 70s to near 80, and another hot afternoon coming to you otherwise, peppered with scattered thunderstorms and showers. 40% chance in the afternoon, as hot as 90-ish.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at GoRedForWomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Ralph Sanji, WGSO.
It's the Battle of New Orleans! Radio, bringing truth to your eardrums! Here we go! It's the Battle of New Orleans! Radio, bringing truth to your eardrums! Here we go! The last line of defense, bringing truth to the front. Now it's time to
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
You're
You're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio, right here on 990 AM WGSO. We are talking to Dr. Tim Anderson, the author of The Dirty War on Syria. Look, David, please, talk about, the question you was asking Dr. Anderson before we went to break.
Yeah. So Dr. Anderson, I've been working with a guy last couple of years, and he's got military connections, law enforcement connections. I'm not going to go any further than that. And he's been trying to talk me into driving a oil tanker in Syria
For ISIS?
He hasn't mentioned who. I don't even want to add it. I didn't ask him. But I mean, he's been saying this for over a year. I'm going to Syria. I'm going to go drive a tanker. And so you're driving a tanker for ISIS? I mean, obviously, this guy would probably be working for, Blackwater, some kind of, military contractor. And so my thinking is the end game is that we want a position in Syria. I say we, I mean in the United States, wants a position in Syria, from my understanding, to get oil from Saudi Arabia, because we are hand in hand with them through Syria into the European markets, because that's the largest oil market. Is that correct? And then Russia, and obviously they supply Europe with oil, so they don't want this going on.
Yeah, well, it's a tangled web, isn't it? I mean, I don't know what your friend's doing, but you recall that last year, the Russians, and Russian television in particular, or the Russian military, exposed the ISIS oil trade into Turkey, and they bombed a number of those convoys, which had not been touched by US and allied Air Force prior to that, in the year prior to that there was US air power in the region. The Russians started bombing it. They were filming it. I think even the US claimed some of the bombings that the Russians had done. But in Iraq, there was a parallel thing going on in Iraq, where there is a deal between one group of the Iraqi Kurds, which has got to deal with the Turkish government of Erdogan.
And pesky Kurds.
Yeah, it's a messy business, because, of course, the same man in Turkey is at war with the biggest group of Kurds, which are in Turkey. In Syria, the Syrian Kurds have been leading the resistance against ISIS in the northeast part there, but they're collaborating with Damascus. So, and we've got more or less the beginnings of some sort of US base in that part of the world, making use of a French construction company of which Hillary Clinton was a director. So we've got this whole toxic sort of mix where there is now a type of, and that French construction company, by the way, was paying some sort of protection money to ISIS in that northeast corner of Syria bordering on Turkey now. So that's an ugly situation there. I have heard also that there are these private operators that work with the US military. They worked with them in Iraq, Blackwater, and the other sorts of groups and so on, are doing these sorts of things. Now, the dangerous part of that for your friend, of course, is that to some, that invites a confrontation because Syria and their allies are not going to allow partition of the country, or even, particular businesses hived off from Syria, its oil stolen and so on, in a way that has been going on in Iraq for some time, in the north of Iraq. So that could lead to a direct confrontation where these so-called civilian contractors are going to be human shields, in effect, against the campaign against those terrorist groups. Whether that's deliberate or not, that is to say, whether Washington or the current administration might say that, bomb these people and you're bombing US interests, inviting a escalation of the conflict there, I'm not sure. But it's a very dangerous situation to put in contractors to steal the resources of another country and then have them effectively acting as human shields against those extremist groups who are acting as the proxies for our governments there. So if I were your friend, I wouldn't be going into that situation.
No, absolutely not. It just seems like somebody had a timetable, and thought that this would all be over with by now. We would have toppled Syria 2 years ago.
That's true.
And it's just that it just hasn't happened yet. So to me, it shows the weakness of
we don't have the moral authority. Go ahead, I mean to cut you off.
No, it just shows the weakness, the actual weakness of the United States propaganda machine to cover up this dirty war.
And the dangers of the illusions we are fed, isn't it? Because if you're quite right that it was not even 2 or 3 years ago, it was 5 years ago, people were saying Assad is going. Any moment now, the regime is going to fall. I've documented this in the past, 2011, 2012, a flood of these stories. The regime is crumbling, it has no support, it's killing its own people. No, that wasn't actually happening. And we're all left with this sort of illusion, and people that go into this situation say, well, here's a chance to make some money, and everyone tells me that this regime is over and doesn't control its own country. That's not what's going on. There's the danger for little people, to step into this situation, believing all of our own bullshit, more or less, that if you believe that stuff, you put yourself at risk too. That's a wider danger, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this just reminds me of when the Americans fought Britain over the American Revolution. It was only 3% that stood up. Well, it's the same thing with Syria. The West does not have the moral authority. If we're not righteous, you're not going to win an unrighteous war, in my opinion. It's hard. It's hard. You don't have the moral authority. What's your take on that, Doctor?
No, I agree with you entirely. That's the starting point, isn't it, of things? We could go back to Vietnam too and say the same sort of thing. There wasn't the moral authority to enforce American will on Vietnam at that time. That was what was resisting. It was a nationalist resistance, effectively. Of course, they were led by a socialist group, but it was a nationalist resistance in Vietnam. It's a nationalist resistance in Syria. It's a nationalist resistance in Iraq. They've done opinion polls, a lot of opinion polls in the Middle East. And one of the areas where there is most hatred amongst young people for the American presence there is in Iraq, young Iraqi people. Maybe that's unsurprising, but, given all of the sacrifice and all the expense and the carnage in Iraq, let's remember that is turning into manure now too, because Iraq has joined the Russian, Syrian, Iranian alliance against these extremist groups. And and look at all the effort that the US put into trying to secure Iraq as a, compliant or friendly or, Western friendly or whatever, however they saw it. That's not happening now. That's going in the other direction now.
Well, Doctor, the Iraqi people seen their nation get double crossed. I mean, Saddam Hussein was a CIA asset. He wasn't a very nice guy in many rights, but but he had a stable country at one point, and then he got double crossed by the United States. So why should they trust us? Why? That's the thing that kills me. Americans, wake up. We've been brainwashed with this American exceptionalism, and I do believe the American people are exceptional, but our government has been hijacked by a gang of offshore crooks that is using our military to protect an investment. They are not out there defending us. They are defending the Federal Reserve, banking cartel, and the military-industrial complex, and all of this. This is what they're defending. If they want to defend us, shut down these foreign bases, bring them home, and let's stop with this foreign entanglement, because our founding fathers said no. Do not get involved. Look, Dr. Tim Anderson, we're coming to a break. Can you stay another segment or two?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Great. Look, I want to get into Iran, because I've been hitting Iran, the whole subject of this and this whole psyop that our media has run. Ask yourself, what are the two nations that hate Iran? Israel and Saudi Arabia. Who are the two biggest factors, the foreign factors in our media? It's Saudi Arabia and Israel. Go figure. Wake up, people. Battle of New Orleans Radio will be right back.
Ooh-wee. Hey, David, that smell good. What you eating on?
Man, I'm eating on some shrimp I got from J&N Big Easy Seafood.
Man, I had to get me some of that.
Yeah, bro, they specialize in the delivery, catering of 20 pounds or more boiled or live shrimp, crawfish, catfish, crabs, frog legs, and much more.
And how do I get in touch with J&N's Big Easy Seafood?
Just call them up. Call 985-640-8822. That's 985-640-8822. As the corporate media dies, MetroNow.com and TheDailyResistance.com continue to give you a decentralized and independent take on the latest current events as well as historical reference to help you wade through the propaganda of the prostitute media. Our mission is to inform the people of New Orleans about the issues of freedom, health, world events, and much more so that we as a community can thrive in the 21st century. Only with an informed public will we truly be free and independent. So take a look at MetroNow.com or TheDailyResistance.com as your independent news source.
Whether you're in the real estate market to buy, sell, lease, or looking for someone just to manage your properties, look no further than Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties. She has 34 years experience and is an expert of all of the latest programs available to homeowners. She has been my trusted realtor for years now. So please call Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties at 504-858-9293. That's 504-858-9293. Renovations Your Way. They renovate to fit your needs with complete customer service from start to finish that goes way beyond the job. With over 20 years of experience, and they are fully insured, and they support the Battle of New Orleans Radio to unite the metro area in the fight for liberty.
Visit us on the web at renovationsyourway.com or call me, Daniel, at 985-402-5916. That's 985-402-5916. renovationsyourway.com. Mention you heard about us on Battle of New Orleans Radio and receive a 10% discount.
Does your house have a clogged up toilet, faulty electrical wires, or AC or heater just isn't blowing properly? Well, call Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. Also specializes in new construction and covers the whole New Orleans metro area. So please, call our friend Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. That's 985-781-0418.
Bon voyage from the Cuisine Report. When you dine in or take out at Saucy's Barbecue on Magazine Street, please remember to drop your receipt with your name into the bowl at the register for your chance to win one of 5 pair of tickets valued at $70 to cruise to beautiful Ship Island on the Gulf Coast. To win, just dine at Saucy's this month for your chance to win tickets to Ship Island excursions on a luxury yacht to the beautiful beach of Ship Island in Gulfport, Mississippi. Tickets courtesy of Ship Island Excursions.
Your genetic disease, you're parasitical prone, you could never be pleased. Everywhere you've gone, you've been treated for fleas. It's time to delouse the house, we don't need none of these. Arming themselves to the teeth while taking Americans' guns. And all the time they having so much fun. Just take a look what they done. Just take a look, just take a motherfucking look what they done.
They took the gold from Gaddafi and the petrol from Hussein, playing God with Assad's democratic regime. All over your Talmud vision, ISIS is seen, but that big plasma screen is a crisis machine. High definition for the Goyim, holy hola hoax, Elia Ehrenberg's dream. There's too many facets for you to understand the plan, from plundering opium and lithium in Afghanistan to justifying a fraudulent crisis to attack Iran and finalize the greater Israel by taking Pakistan. Just look at the blue borders on their vile flag.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. You're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio right here on 990 AM WGSO. Look, people need to go listen to that song I was just playing, even if you're not a hip-hop fan. I'm not a mainstream hip-hop fan. I listen to anti-New World Order music. Go check out Payday Monsanto's Chosen Knight's Lament, and it goes into a lot of the things that happened, and that are happening in the Middle East. This isn't just some anomaly. This is just, there's a plan. There was a neocon plan in place, for the Middle East, and this plan went public. It came across Wesley Clark's desk, and they're hammering on Iran at this point. And before I get the doctor's take, I want to lay it out for everybody. Okay, they say Iran is our enemy. Okay, let's really look. Let's really take a look what happened to Iran. 1953. CIA takes out Mohammad Mossadegh. They was listening to rock and roll in Iran. Iran was very, very pro-West. Can't have a very pro-West moderate government. We got to destroy them. Let's take them out. Boom, get them out of here. 1979, Western-backed coup of the Shah. We got to get him out of there. And before that happened, we started freezing some of their assets in money. We froze billions of dollars of their assets before that whole funny hostage business of 1979 with the whole October surprise that helped get Ronald Reagan elected. Okay, there was some real funny things with that whole deal. Then I believe it was either 87 or 88 or 89. We blew their commercial passenger liner out of the sky, killing 300 civilians, around about 300 civilians. So, and we have Iran surrounded with bases. While they tell us there's a transgender Iranian under every leaf ready to blow us up. And then the media tries to morph Iran into being ISIS when Iran is the antithesis of ISIS, and they're actually fighting ISIS, and they're not even the same religion. People need to wake up, and you need to read and understand what's really going on. Okay, not all Muslims are the same. Not all sects are the same. Iran they're Persians. They're not Arabians. Okay, there's a whole big difference. Understand the players of the Middle East. Before you just talk like Ted Cruz and want to make it a glass parking lot. You need to understand what's going on. And then the media perpetrates this lie that Iran just wants to kill all Jews. That's a bunch of poppycock, because there's Jews that have been living in peace in Iran for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. There's actual Jews in the government. There's tons of synagogues in Tehran. I've talked to several people that have been to Tehran from America. Not a problem.
But wait, that guy from Center of Security Policy,
Chris Holden,
told me that I was full of it when I asked him. I mentioned the same thing. Talking about, well, if Iran wanted to wipe out all the Jews, why wouldn't they start with the ones in Tehran? And he told me, I was way off target. I was a Martian.
You know why? Because they're listening to that damn faux news network that's owned by a Zionist Jew.
The Fox News Network.
Yeah, the faux news network. It's owned by a Zionist Jew, and the Saudis had interest. Iran's enemy. People, understand, get it together, figure it out. It's 2 + 2 level addition here. Now, go ahead, Doctor. What do you say for everything I just laid out there?
Yeah, you made some good points. I think Iran, the history is important, of course, that there was a lot of resentment at the US backing of the Shah for 25 years. And then, so when they kicked out the US and had that revolution in 1979, they were determined to reinstall their own values. Because the Shah's secret police, the Sabak, had basically repressed and destroyed the secular opposition, the opposition was organized through the mosques. And that's why the character of the Iranian Revolution was an Islamic one in the late 70s. But you're right to point out that that was the Iranian Shia Islam is a particular variant which is violently opposed by the Saudis, basically. The Iranians themselves, the way I see it, they don't really play a sectarian role in the region, because the reason why they're hated so much by Israel is because they support the Palestinians. They've supported the Palestinians. There's virtually no Shia Muslims in Palestine. So they've done it across those boundaries. They support Syria, which is a secular or pluralist country, which doesn't want a theocratic state. So all of their allies with Russia, as they've demonstrated recently by allowing the Russians to use their air bases to bomb ISIS, which is major backer is Saudi Arabia. So, you know, they are very anti-imperial, let's say, the Iranians, in the way that they look at the world, but they have never attacked the US directly. They resent the US for what the US has done in the region and done to them, basically.
Well, Dr. Anderson, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, if there were a different US policy to the region, a respectful policy, then a lot of that would change.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, I'm gonna throw something out. We only got a couple minutes left. I'm gonna throw something out to you. You know, we're all over this Iran nuclear deal, but hold up. If I was a free nation and all these other nations around me had nuclear weapons, wouldn't you want a nuclear weapon too, Dr. Anderson?
Well, there's logic to that. You know, there's a logic to that. But
I mean, I think
it's extraordinary what happened with that agreement was that it was really an attempt at unilateral disarmament before we get to the detail of it. And there's no real international law backing the idea of unilateral disarmament. We will select one country, Iran, and say that its nuclear power industry could turn into an arms industry, while we turn a blind eye to the fact that Israel has dozens and dozens of nuclear weapons secreted in its allies around the world, basically. So that idea of targeting one country to unilaterally disarm it is part of a bigger plan, basically. Now, the Iranians played their diplomatic cards very carefully. They got some sort of agreement, which the rest of the world is happy with, but the US is still, keeping its options open, because it wants to play that role of the world policeman and the big power, the empire. It doesn't want to say empire, but it's playing the role of the empire without using the words. And that just doesn't work in today's world, basically. People won't respect that. They won't ever respect that.
No, that's a great point. Look, we're coming to a break. We got one more segment with Dr. Tim Anderson. Please go support this man's work. Get the book, The Dirty War in Syria. When we come back, Dr. Anderson, if you don't mind, we have a caller who wants to ask you a question. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio. Please check it out. Tell your friends and family about the show. Go to our YouTube channel, which our great reporter and co-host Caleb Hitt will upload this after the show, the Battle NOLA Radio. Please go hit that subscribe button. Great information. Thank you, Dr. Tim Anderson. We'll be right back with the caller. Brian, hold up 1 second. We'll be right back.
Ooh-wee. Hey, David, that smell good. What you eating on?
Man, I'm eating on some shrimp I got from J&N Big Easy Seafood.
Man, I have to get me some of that.
Yeah, bro, they specialize in the delivery, catering of 20 pounds or more boiled or live shrimp, crawfish, catfish, crabs, frog legs, and much more.
And how do I get in touch with J&N's Big Easy Seafood?
Just call them up. Call 985-640-8822. That's 985-640-8822. As the corporate media dies, MetroNow.com and TheDailyResistance.com continue to give you a decentralized and independent take on the latest current events as well as historical reference to help you wade through the propaganda of the prostitute media. Our mission is to inform the people of New Orleans about the issues of freedom, health, world events, and much more so that we as a community can thrive in the 21st century. Only with an informed public will we truly be free and independent. So take a look at MetroNow.com or TheDailyResistance.com as your independent news source.
What does Grace mean to you? For us, it means that in 2 years, Grace at the Green Light has served over 40,000 meals and distributed 60,000 bottles of water to the homeless in New Orleans. Grace at the Green Light would like to thank Oral & Berry, LLC, for sponsoring This Week and making a difference in New Orleans. Oral & Berry, LLC, a full-service law firm dedicated to its clients' goals and the community.
Are you looking for an insurance quote for your home, boat, or car? If you're still waiting for that return phone call, wait no more. Foundation Insurance Group has 6 licensed agents to serve you, and you won't be limited to just one carrier. Our agents will shop for the most affordable, complete coverage available. There's lots of insurance companies out there. Pick the company where customer service is a priority. Foundation Insurance Group, where we guarantee to call you back. Foundation Insurance Group, 504-304-6143.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Halen Doty. Over 40,000 homes were damaged by the floods, and unfortunately, many of them are not insured for flood damage. Jeff Palermo has more.
Michael Berry with the Insurance Information Institute says, unfortunately, people who do not have flood insurance will likely pay for some repairs out of their own pocket because the maximum FEMA assistance payments are just over $30,000.
It's unlikely that it's going to cover the total losses.
But Berry still encourages storm victims to apply, and they can do so at disasterassistance.gov. I'm Jeff Palermo.
A man's body was discovered by emergency workers this afternoon in an area where major flooding took place. The discovery brings the flooding death toll to 12. According to the State Fire Marshal's office, the body was found in a subdivision in Denham Springs, and the identity of the victim has not yet been confirmed. But investigators say the man appears to be in his 50s with no apparent trauma. Louisiana Radio Network.
At AT&T, we believe that access to affordable home internet brings you incredible opportunities. You can enjoy the power to explore a digital world of possibilities and connect with family, friends, and the things that matter most. That's why there's access from AT&T. If a member of your household is a SNAP participant, you may qualify for home internet at a discounted rate of $10 a month. No commitment, no deposit, no installation fee. Plus, get an in-home Wi-Fi gateway at no extra cost. Call 1-855-220-5211 or visit att.com/aware to learn more.
SNAP refers to the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Pricing excludes tax. Service will include a monthly data allowance depending on the type and speed of service you receive. If you exceed your monthly data plan allowance, you will be automatically charged $10 for each 50 gigabytes of data usage in excess of your data plan, even if less than 50 gigabytes is used. For details about data allowances, go to att.com/internet-usage. Wi-Fi enabled device required. Other restrictions apply.
This is Jeff Cruier with my commentary of the day. While the media's in a tizzy over Donald Trump's taxes, saying he's got to release them, even though he's still being audited. But what about Hillary's medical records? We know she had a serious fall. We know she had a blood clot. We've seen video of her stumbling, having a hard time getting upstairs, freezing at campaign events, looking like she could be dealing with seizures. She's got a doctor with her on the campaign trail. She just stumbled after leaving the podium the other day and was assisted by Joe Biden. So it's clear that there are legitimate questions that need to be answered about her health. She's also not campaigning on the weekends, doing very few events compared to Donald Trump. Is that a health issue? Inquiring minds want to know. The media's done a horrible job pursuing this issue. Are they part of a cover-up? That question is a legitimate one, and it's very legitimate for Americans to demand the medical records of Hillary Clinton now. More info on this and the other hot topics of the day, check out ringsidepolitics.com.
Tim McNally here. The Dine, Wine, and Spirit Show is daily, 3 to 5, discussing wines and restaurants and spirits right here at WGSO.
Hi, Eric Asher, host of Inside New Orleans. For the best interviews in New Orleans radio with the newsmakers and the newsbreakers, join me 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 990 WGSO.
I'm Jeff Cruer.
I'm Eric Asher. You can always catch us on the radio right here on WGSO 990 AM.
Did you know you can catch us on TV?
That's right, Jeff. We're on WLAE TV.
Join me every Friday on Ringside Politics with a Punch at 7:30 with a rebroadcast Sunday at 10 p.m.
Check me out every Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. and a rebroadcast Friday at 10 p.m. for Inside New Orleans Sports. That's WLAE TV, Cox Channel 14, Satellite and AT&T Channel 32, Charter Channel 11. Don't miss it.
This is David Jeremiah inviting you to join me here on Talk Radio 990 every weekday at either 5:30 or 6:30 a.m.
Battle of New Orleans Radio with your hosts Nathan Lawrence, Caleb Hitt, and Goyam on 990 WGSO.
In 1814, we took
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. You're listening to Battle of New Orleans Radio right here, 990 AM WGSO. It's our last segment with the good Dr. Tim Anderson, located there in Sydney, Australia. We appreciate his time. He's written a great book, The Dirty War on Syria. Please support his work and you can find it at Global Research. All right, we're going to take a call now. We have Brian on line one. Brian, welcome to the show. Do you have a question for Dr. Tim Anderson?
Yes, I do, Doctor. Thank you so much, Nate. Dr. Anderson, I have a twofold question. One, if you could please talk about the size of the American base that has been built in Australia that most don't even know about exist. And number two, with everything, the tension that is so great right now in the Middle East, it took 6 months for a 23-nation coalition of Muslim nations to get together to have the largest war game in peacetime history in the Middle East. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan were the three big countries. And it was over 350,000 fighting men, not just typists. These were all infantry. There were over 20,000 tanks, and the list goes on and on what they had. It was live fire. There was no reason for with all that's going on right now, there was no reason for them to have that. And what I'm worried is that as we get closer to November, and as muddy and as nasty as this is getting with the American election, is President Obama getting ready to allow a war to break out before or during the November elections? And how y'all were talking about on how the United States is involved with Iran, and as y'all were talking about, is it possible that the United States is getting ready to start a war with Iran, which would pretty much stop the election in the United States? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for interesting questions. On the first one, there are a lot of relatively small US bases in Australia, but they're mainly intelligence gathering ones. The most famous one is Pine Gap in the centre of Australia, which is a satellite intelligence base there. Some of the more physical bases, like for submarines, are less important these days. Otherwise, there's some docking facilities. You know, the US ships come into Darwin in the north of Australia, but they don't really need a permanent base because there's a lot of direct cooperation with the Australian military and the US military. I don't think there's any new base there, as to say, but there's that ongoing cooperation, and which means that the Australian forces are technically also, like militarily with equipment and so on, integrated into US forces in a lot of foreign operations. In relation to Iran, I don't really think the situation is very dangerous, I think, for this reason, that the US is, through its proxy groups, the Islamist groups in Syria and Iraq, the US is losing. And that's dangerous because the US doesn't like to lose, doesn't know how to lose well. And so there's always that danger of escalation. But the other side to that coin is that there hasn't really been a stomach for an open or a widely escalated war, despite the language, from the beginning, I don't think. We've seen a number of points where there could have been escalation. Remember that the lies that were told about the Syrian government using chemical weapons just when the Syrian government's invited chemical weapons inspectors to Damascus in August 2013. When that stunt was carried out, basically, Obama didn't show any stomach for escalation at that time. Even when they were talking about a strike, they were talking about a limited, I think Joe Biden said, incredibly limited strike or something like that. What does that mean in war terms? Nothing really. You can kill people. The danger is they are killing people, and they have been killing people, and they're rattling the sabers about Iran. But in the end, remember, they backed off on Iran. They backed off on Iran with that weapons deal strategically because they had their hands full with Syria. And although Mr. Netanyahu in Israel didn't like that at the time, it was a calculated move, I believe, by Washington to say, look, one thing at a time here. So Iran, I believe, from the US establishment point of view, is on the back burner effectively. And I don't think there's a plan for any escalation, let alone in the, what do they call it, the lame duck years of the Obama presidency. Really, I don't believe that he wants to go out on that sort of note. Hillary Clinton is another story, but I believe that Hillary Clinton, although she's connected to all that politics of the dirty wars, I don't believe that there would be the stomach for an escalation at that time. So I think it's very dangerous for the people of the region. And the provocations against Russia in Eastern Europe are another factor we need to link in there. You might have noticed, if you were following some of the media about Europe and NATO, that there's been a lot of reaction in Europe against these provocations against Russia. I was in Germany just a month or so ago, and one opinion poll there showed that more than 90% of the German people were against these provocations on the border of Russia. They wanted a good relationship with Russia. So there's that sort of factor there too. So I think while it's very dangerous what's going on with the attempt to build a base on the edge of Turkey and northeast Syria, and to try and play the Kurdish card to try and get leverage in the region and divide Iraq and Iran, that all is very dangerous, and many people are losing their lives in the Middle East. I don't believe there is a stomach for a wider escalation in Washington. That's just my estimate.
I sure hope you're right, Professor. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of Putin's speeches lately, but I don't know if it was last week or a week or two ago, where he was talking about the U.S. basically, creating these, these Islamic, excuse me, I'm having trouble here. These Islamic terrorist organizations as proxy armies, and turning them loose on Russia's border, and Putin saying this. I mean, goodness gracious, I wish we would have, a leader that had the kahunas to say such a thing.
Yeah, well, Mr. Putin, of course, had that experience with Chechnya in the south of the Caucasus, and that was a very similar type of operation. The Saudis were funding that also to try and divide, to try and weaken Russia, and it was Putin that actually worked out a diplomatic/military solution to that one, and they more or less solved it. But they're very alive to the fact that in the South Caucasus there, with significant Muslim populations, that some sort of sectarian operations can be whipped up by those outside of Russia, in particular Saudi Arabia. So that's sort of course, why there's a lot of Russian support for what Putin's doing in Syria. They know that it's a preemptive thing, that it does affect them directly, much more than it affects the US, for example. The Europeans, for their part, are seeing that they're getting the blowback from these operations too. The attacks across Europe are a type of blowback, and the Europeans have been responsible for the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. So that blowback is something that's affecting the Europeans more than it's affecting the US too. So, there's a big game going on. They used to call the Great Game, the battle, the competition between the British Empire and the Russian Empire. Then it became the Cold War, the Soviet bloc versus the US bloc. The Great Game is still going on there, and we have to look at these conflicts in that wider context.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, Doctor, we have one more caller. We only got a couple minutes left, so let's knock this call out. We have on line 3 the Flaming Liberal.
Who was flaming before flaming was cool. Now, I don't want to be rude to your guest. I really called to discuss the presidential campaign. So if you like, you can put me back on hold. If there's time.
All right, we'll put you back on hold, Flaming Liberal. Appreciate you calling. Yeah, Dr. Tim Anderson is on the line with us from Sydney, Australia. He's written a great book, The Dirty War on Syria. Please go check it out. I can't wait to read it. You can find his work on Global Research. That's a great website as well. I mean, so what's the end game here, Doctor? What can we do? I mean, I don't know. This is like the one issue I try to beat home to people, and it just, I don't know. It's like it falls in deaf ears. I don't know. What do we do?
From the US point of view, I think, that really there needs to be a sea change in terms of the way that trying to reshape the Middle East is going, and pushing the borders of NATO on that eastern side and the southeastern side there. That's really the problem for the US, because you see the situation in Syria is changing rapidly. When the Syrian army with its backers, with Russia and Iran, take back Aleppo, and that's going to be fairly soon now, there'll be very few assets that the NATO countries have got on the ground there. They'll have to find a way out. They'll have to find a way out to climb down. I think that Mr. Putin is probably going to be the best chance, because he seems to have enough goodwill and enough skill to create a diplomatic cover for the back down that someone in Washington is going to have to do here. That saying that it's going to be quite false, but it's going to be clever diplomacy to say thank you to President Obama, for example, or whoever it is, for helping bring about peace, in Syria, and helping resolve this issue. I think Mr. Putin's capable of doing that, because he's not a confrontative type. He's looking for a way out for his Western partners, as he keeps calling them, all the way while he realizes, what the real game is. So I think there's going to have to some sort of climb down by the US in a way that they did it with Iran. Effectively, they put Iran onto the back burner. There were several years, I remember, we were on the edge of World War III against Iran, and there was a climb down there that was covered up very nicely, basically. That sort of operation, I think, has to happen in Syria to stop the killing, to try and stabilize the situation, let those ordinary people get on with their lives and decide their own systems for themselves.
Man, that's a great point. Let them decide for themselves. We don't need to play, bring democracy everywhere, because that's not, we don't even live in a democracy. It's a bunch of BS. Professor, we really enjoyed the conversation. I really look forward to reading your book, and it was very enlightening. I can't wait to go back and re-listen. So, man, God bless. Thank you for your work, and I look forward to having you on again.
Thanks.
All right, appreciate it, sir. Battle of New Orleans Radio. Be right back.
Enjoy fresh fruit grown in your yard. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com delivers and installs fruit trees and fruiting vines to your home or condo. Proudly serving Kenner, Metairie, and New Orleans. Apples, apricots, blackberries, citrus, figs, grapes, peaches, pears, persimmons, plums, and raspberries. All the trees and fruiting vines are grown right here in South Louisiana. Check out the Fruit Tree Guide for more information and visit JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com today. It's a great time to plant. JohnnyAppleseedTrees.com.
Whether you're in the real estate market to buy, sell, lease, or looking for someone just to manage your properties, look no further than Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties. She has 34 years experience and is an expert of all of the latest programs available to homeowners. She has been my trusted realtor for years now. So please call Paula Bourne with Plantation Properties at 504-858-9293. That's 504-858-9293. Renovations Your Way. They renovate to fit your needs with complete customer service from start to finish that goes way beyond the job. With over 20 years experience, and they are fully insured, and they support the Battle of New Orleans Radio to unite the metro area in the fight for liberty.
Visit us on the web at renovationsyourway.com or call me, Daniel, at 985-402-5916. That's 985-402-5916. renovationsyourway.com. Mention you heard about us on Battle of New Orleans Radio and receive a 10% discount.
Does your house have a clogged up toilet, faulty electrical wires, or AC or heater just isn't blowing properly? Well, call Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. Also specializes in new construction and covers the whole New Orleans metro area. So please, call our friend Herman with Superior AC, Electrical, and Plumbing at 985-781-0418. That's 985-781-0418.
How would you like to be the winner of a giant container of Salvo's special seafood boil and seasoning blend? To enter, Send an email with your name to Cynthia@WGSO.com. And the next time you dine at Salvo's restaurant in Belle Chase, check to see if your name's a winner. You can't win if you don't enter. Enter now by sending an email with your name to Cynthia@WGSO.com. Salvo's special seafood boil and seasoning blend giveaway from Salvo's Seafood Restaurant in Belle Chase in the Cuisine Report.
Ooh-wee. Hey, David, that smell good. What you eating on?
Man, I'm eating on some shrimp I got from J&N Big Easy Seafood.
Man, I had to get me some of that.
Yeah, bro, they specialize in the delivery, catering of 20 pounds or more boiled or live shrimp, crawfish, catfish, crabs, frog legs, and much more.
And how do I get in touch with J&N's Big Easy Seafood?
Just call them up. Call 985-640-8822. That's 985-640-8822.
They don't care about you at all, at all, at all.
The views and opinions expressed in this song are those of Diesel Automatic and millions of others worldwide and are based on factual information available to the public. Nonetheless, skepticism is encouraged, and I highly recommend that everyone listen to these issues on their own and draws their own conclusions. It's our obligation to ourselves, our families, and our people. Now let's go. First of all, rest in peace, George Carlin and Michael Jackson. Now it's time for action. The government got us trapped. We had enough of this crap. They took our freedom and our dough, and now we taking.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and I'm sick of it. I'm fed up. It's time we take our nation back. We don't live in a nation. We live under globalism. Everybody is talking about, oh, the UN takeover. They're going to have UN army in the streets. Guess what? It's already happened without them firing a shot. The UN has taken over your police department. The UN has taken over your school. The UN has taken over everything. We are not America. We were sold out in 1871. We no longer live in a constitutional form of government. Wake the hell up. Wake up.
Nathan, it's liberal, though, Nathan. It's liberal to have these things happen to us. And look, globalism is good, and America is bad. And we need to vote for the globalist candidate, Hillary Clinton. And let's bring on line 3, the Flaming Liberal. Flaming Liberal, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I hope you're the same. I don't know how much time we have. I have a lot to say.
All right, go.
Trump made a speech. And I've never heard anything so ironic and hypocritical in my life, and I'm surprised, as far as I know, the media hasn't picked up on the point that I'm about to make. Trump's speech last night concerned law and order, and he went on to say, and he said this before, that we should have kept the oil in Iraq. First of all, I don't want American soldiers, men and women, dying for oil. If we keep the oil, we have to keep a military force over there to protect the oil. Now, I'm surprised that Trump doesn't recall, evidently, because what we did in Iran in the 50s, the CIA overthrew a democratically elected government and put in a ruthless, murderous dictator, the Shah, so we can get cheap oil. And that's why, as of today, many Iranians would like to kill us.
But that's really not true, though. I mean, I've listened to a ton of interviews, and from people in the street in Iran, they have no problem with Americans.
Oh, I said there are some. Well, there are some radical Iranians.
I'm sure, absolutely. There's radical everybody, you know.
All right, but Trump. We're talking about Trump. Look,
but what right do we have to keep oil? That
let's just go back just a second. ISIS has control of the oil, so I'd rather be in control of it than ISIS. But I wasn't for the wars. I mean, I was duped. No, I'm gonna tell you right now, I was duped, and I was for it. Now I'm totally against it, and was totally and had the wool pulled over my eyes by George Bush. So let's get over that. But Hillary Clinton, your candidate, wants to doesn't want to get the oil, just wants ISIS to have them. So
I don't believe, no, that's she doesn't want ISIS. She doesn't.
She loves ISIS. What are you talking about, Flaming Liberal?
She doesn't love.
She loves them.
Look,
she funds them. She loves them. She gave them all the weapons from Benghazi.
Look, in 2012, the State Department was running weapons that was all part of the Fast and Furious. They were running weapons from Mexico, from our bases, from New Mexico down to Mexico to Hillary's through the State Department.
Into Turkey, Into Turkey, Libya, Turkey, Syria, hopscotch.
her State Department. She was part of that. I mean, this has all come out.
Do you get your information from Breitbart?
No, I don't. You know what? No, you know what I get my information? The FOIA request.
Do you get your information from CNN?
Okay. Well, Breitbart put out an edited, altered tape. Remember Shirley, and this is the head of
Oh, wait, no,
Breitbart.
let's back up. It was the video. Remember that flaming liberal? It was the
I'm talking
guy.
about it. The head of Breitbart was just named to be a prominent person in the Trump campaign.
Thank God.
Okay. Well, Breitbart, and I don't know if this guy was running Breitbart at the time. He is now. They edited the tape of Shirley Sherrod saying something like she didn't make loans to white people or something when she was working for the USDA.
Who gives a poop about white people? We're talking about terrorists and Hillary Clinton funding terrorists.
Hold up. Time out. The FOIA request from that Judicial Watch got, the DIA report showed Hillary's State Department knew that attack was going to happen 10 days before. That's not Breitbart. That's not InfoWars. That's not Rents. That's not any alternative or conservative outlet. That is from the government. Hillary Clinton is complicit. And she said, look, we went to Libya. She said, we came, we saw, he died. 500,000 people
And
in
look,
Libya.
John McCain's right there with her. So look, get over the left-right stuff, flaming liberal. And can't you see that there's evil that corrupts our government, whether they're in the Democratic or Republican Party?
Republican Majority Intelligence Committee in the Congress of the United States.
Do you think that the liberals are completely exempt from all this? Are they so they're just like little lambs, totally innocent? Are you out of your mind? They're totally corrupt.
Dude, Hillary Clinton is a neocon. She is a damn warmonger. If she gets elected, a nuclear bomb will get dropped in America within 2 years. Guaranteed.
Or on somebody else.
I don't believe that for a second. Now let's talk about Trump.
She's a damn murderer. She was running cocaine money in the 80s, $100 million a month through the Rose Law Firm that she funneled through banks in Chicago. She is a damn criminal.
You know who was running cocaine into the country? Oliver North. And
Barry Seal and the CIA, who was running damn Clinton, Don Tyson Chicken. I mean, this is ridiculous.
So
the
what
Clinton
is it?
machine is a bunch of criminals.
You know who wasn't running cocaine? Donald Trump.
Okay, Oliver North was defending Trump, saying that Barack Obama and Hillary were the founders of ISIS.
Okay.
And then the next day, he says he was being sarcastic.
Well, he should have never crawfished.
Well, yeah, you don't come on the news and say that, and then the next day you say something else. Maybe somebody threatened him. Okay.
The night before, he was on with Sean Hannity, defending every word that Trump said regarding Obama and Hillary being the founders of ISIS, and then Trump left Hannity and Oliver North out to dry. He played them for fools and suckers.
Look, we appreciate it, Flaming Liberal. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much, Flaming Liberal.
Look, we got David Duke and Beryl Billiot, 2 candidates for Senate. We're trying to get on for next week. Look, Hillary Clinton is a damn criminal. Okay, who cares what Donald Trump said? I don't care if he's mean. It hurts your feelings. I know liberals, all they care is about your little feelings. Who gives a rat?
He's not trying to sell the United States out to globalism.
Look, are we either going to be it's for nationalism or globalism.
Either we have a country or we don't.
And look, I usually don't support the lesser of two evils, but in this election, if you vote, you have no choice but to vote for Trump, unless you want to completely sell us out to every global interest. We're already run and occupied by a foreign banking cartel called the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, you can seal the deal with your vote for Hillary, or you can vote for having a country again.
You want Hillary? Then go look up democide. 262 million people killed in the 20th century. That's University of Hawaii's own numbers. You want more of that? You want democide? Put Hillary in office. They're going to put her in office anyway. They're going to give her the election.
That's it. It's a communist takeover, folks. Nathan, great job. Battle of New Orleans Radio, folks. Please support the radio station. Visit the website. Support our sponsors. Listen to the commercials. Thank you very much for having me on, Nathan.
Battle of New Orleans Radio. David Duke, Beryl Billiot next week. We'll be back.
We fired our cannon until the barrel melted down. So we grabbed an alligator and we fought another round.
This is David Duplantier, Dean of Christ Church Cathedral between 6th and 7th on St. Charles Avenue, inviting you to join us in celebrating Sundays at the Cathedral. 7:30 a.m. in the chapel, 10 a.m. a choral Eucharist in the Cathedral, and 6 p.m. a service called Real Presence that invites the worshiper to enter into the mystery of God by reflection, prayer, and celebration of the Holy Eucharist. For more information, look at our website, cccnola.org.
Hey folks, this is Jeff Cruaire. Join me at 7 a.m. till 11 right here on WGSO 990 a.m. for Ringside Politics with a Punch. We're going to be bringing you great guests. We'll discuss the latest hot topics and, of course, taking your phone calls. On Wednesday, Ringside All-Star Mitch Gibbs checks in with us. We'll look at the latest polls, the trends, and how the media is covering the race, and whether it's fair or biased. All of that and more right here on Ringside from 7 to 11 on WGSO.
This advertisement does not constitute an offer to sell a franchise. The offer of a franchise can only be made through the delivery of a franchise disclosure document.
Fresh Healthy Vending is a new company that is revolutionizing the vending machine business by filling them with healthy and natural foods. That's right. Protein and energy drinks, teas and juices, yogurts, fresh fruits and veggies, soy milk, natural cereals, granola bars. Can you imagine that? It's like having a whole food store in a machine. And you can get in on the ground floor by getting your own Fresh Healthy Vending franchise. You can have your own small business placing healthy food vending machines all over your area in places like schools and hospitals and businesses and airports and other high traffic areas. Locations that embrace the idea because, they make money too. Full training and support and assistance in acquiring locations. It's all about timing, folks. Pick up the phone, make the call to Fresh Healthy Vending, and get all the details on what could be your big life moment. Get Fresh Healthy Vending franchise information now. Call 800-424-8282. 424-8282. That's 800-424-8282.
Your station for prep sports year-round. We are WGSO 990 AM New Orleans.
Sort of beef up.
Already a senior advisor to the Donald Trump campaign, Kellyanne Conway is now campaign manager, as Paul Manafort is going to be a campaign chairman, though probably with a reduced role, and Breitbart News co-founder Stephen Bannon is the new campaign CEO. Head of the Trump super PAC, Ken McKay, says Trump has always had a very lean staff, and it simply needed to be